Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. I'm your host, Maysa Dumas. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives the Slovenian Foreign Affairs Minister Anže Logar, several key issues on the top of the agenda. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, appoints Kamal Bouchama and Abu Jarrah Sultani, members of the Council of the Nation, as part of the Presidential Third. The province of Oran is to celebrate today the -100-day countdown event ahead of the Mediterranean Games. And the situation is still tense in Morocco, with more popular demonstrations, while the siege imposed on the Sahrawi activist Sultana Khaya has been broken by a visit of foreign tourists. Those were today's headlines. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday in Algiers the Slovenian Foreign Affairs Minister Anže Logar. The audience took place in the presence of the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ramtan Al-Amamra and the Principal Private Secretary Abdelaziz Khalaf. Following the audience, the Slovenian Foreign Affairs Minister Anže Logar had this to say to the newsmen.
It was a pleasure to be here to speak about the relations between Slovenia and Algeria. We touched upon several issues, from war in Ukraine to further bilateral relations. We aimed to enhance this cooperation, first with the signing agreement on economic cooperation, then as well to meet our economic delegation from both sides in order to see what are the fields where we can enhance our cooperation, and as well cooperation in the field of energy. So a possibility for enhancing this cooperation with possibility to make additional agreements regarding gas and oil production from Algeria. So it was a very fruitful cooperation. There is mutual intention to cooperate in future, and as well to align the ports between Algeria and Slovenia in order to speed up the bilateral economic trends between the countries. Algeria is the second most important partner in the region, and we want to work on this and as well speed up cooperation on service cooperation, artificial intelligence, water treatment, and as well tourist sector, where I think the two countries can as well cooperate very well.
In accordance with the Constitution, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has appointed Kamal Bouchama and Abu Jarrah Sultani, members of the Council of the Nation, as part of the Presidential Third, announced the Presidency of the Republic in a communiqué. The President of the Council of the Nation, or Upper House of Parliament, Salah Goujil, received the Bahrainian Foreign Affairs Minister Albert Chingero. The two parties reviewed the excellent bilateral relations that bind the two countries and ways to strengthen them in different fields, namely the sectors of higher education, health, and agriculture. After the meeting, the Bahrainian Foreign Affairs Minister Albert Chingero made the following statement, during which he highlighted the necessity to further upgrade bilateral relations between Algeria and Burundi. Let's have a listen to him.
I had the honor and privilege to be received by the President. We are here for a particular purpose to consolidate our cooperation relations at all levels. We share the same will to go ahead. Our relations, which go back to a long time, are excellent. However, we want to further upgrade these relations, as I said before.
The President of the National People's Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, also received the Bahrainian Foreign Affairs Minister Albert Shingero. The two parties discussed bilateral relations between the two countries. The Prime Minister, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, chaired a government meeting here in Algiers, during which he reviewed several sectors. Manal Ammari gives us the gist of this meeting.
Some of the sectors reviewed during this meeting were the field of trade and export promotion, with the submission of a draft executive decree related to the conditions for conducting commercial activities. This draft aims to facilitate the commercial action and establish an enterprise via the internet. Regarding the field of tourism and handicrafts, the tourism minister submitted a draft executive decree defining, authorizing, and classifying expansion areas and tourist sites. This draft comes within the framework of the national strategy to boost tourism in Algeria and preserve the national ecosystem and cultural wealth. In the health sector, a draft executive decree was submitted, aiming to define the tasks, organization, and functioning of the National Council for Health Science Ethics, functions, organization, and conduct. As for the industry field, the industry minister gave a presentation on the project on the completion of a milk factory in the capital, Algiers, with a production capacity of 1 million liters per day. Finally, concerning the water resources field, a presentation was submitted to secure drinking water and ensure that the country is supplied with it on a regular and continuous basis over the course of the current year, in addition to the implementation of the 2021 Water Emergency Program for the benefit of provinces affected by the decline of dam reserves.
The Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Mtan Al-Amamra met with his Slovenian counterpart Anze Logar. The two parties addressed ways and means of further upgrading bilateral cooperation. The Burundian Foreign Affairs Minister was also received by the Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Arqab. In Iran, final touches are being made ahead of the Mediterranean Games. The 100-day countdown will be launched today, Thursday, with a rich program and diverse festivities. The details with Leticia Sadqawi.
In 100 days, Iran will be the capital of the Mediterranean basin. And to celebrate this occasion, the organizing committee has worked out a rich program for Thursday, in which the International Committee of the Mediterranean Games will launch in a festive ambience, the event marking the 100 days countdown to this occasion that is very important for our country. The festivities will begin at 1 p.m. with a gathering in the Port Said Square, where the Mediterranean Games Commissioner will officially announce the beginning of the countdown in the presence of local authorities. The participants will then go to the Sidi Mohammed Square near the Island Avenue, where a caravan of artistic folk groups will go through the streets of the city, passing by the roundabout of Ahmed Zabana, L'Arbi Ben Mhidi Road, La Victoire Square, and finally 1er Novembre Square. The garden situated facing this latter, which is also the arriving spot of this caravan, will have an exhibition at the level of the tents installed for the occasion, with stands presenting Iran heritage like traditional clothes and popular dishes, as well as paintings and pictures of the previous Mediterranean Games. The festivities will be crowned by an artistic ceremony in the Maghreb Movies Hall, starting from 8 p.m. in the presence of previous local athletes, including the runner Bou'ala Marahwi and the boxer Mustafa Musa, who will be honored.
Within the dynamics of the continuous efforts in the fight against terrorism and multi-phased organized crime, units and detachments of the National People's Army carried out operations during the current month that reflects the high professionalism, vigilance and permanent availability of our army across the national territory. Manal Ammari has the details.
As part of the fight against terrorism, detachments of the National People's Army arrested 7 support elements for terrorist groups in distinct operations across the national territory, while other elements discovered and destroyed in Boumerdès and Tipaza provinces 5 terrorist bunkers, 2 handmade bombs, 1 shotgun, as well as other artifacts. Within the framework of the fight against organized crime and in continuity of the intense efforts aimed at countering the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the National People's Army arrested in coordination with various security services at the level of the 2nd and 3rd military regions 7 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to introduce large quantities of drugs across the border with Morocco, amounting to 17 quintals of cannabis, while 31 other drug traffickers were arrested in possession of 1 Kalashnikov-type submachine gun, an automatic pistol, a quantity of ammunition, as well as 37 kilograms of cannabis and 1,055,707 psychotropic tablets were seized during various operations carried out throughout other military regions. In another context, detachments of the National People's Army intercepted in Tamanrasset, Burj Baji Mukhtar, Ain Gizam, Janet and Tindouf provinces 326 individuals and confiscated 16 vehicles, 168 generators, 137 jackhammers, 12 metal detectors, quantities of explosives, detonation tools and other equipments used in illicit gold mining operations, while 5 other individuals were apprehended and 15 hunting rifles, 78,735 cartridges, in addition to 37 quintals of tobacco and 36.5 tons of foodstuffs destined for smuggling were seized in Burj Bouaririj, El Wad, Biskra, Batna, Tizi Ouzou and Ain Gizam provinces. Similarly, the border guards thwarted attempts to smuggle large quantities of fuel amounting to 21,408 liters in Tamanrasset, Tbissa, At-Taraf and Souqahras provinces, while 293 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested in Janet, Tlemcen, Ain Salah, Adrar, Bashar and Wirgla provinces.
Drastic drop in the purchasing power of Moroccans who keep taking to the streets to voice their anger and refusal of the current unbearable social and economic situation. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
Morocco is currently experiencing one of the worst crises in its history, a suffocating economic crisis which has been shaking the Makhzen for several months, causing a real social earthquake. Today, the situation is aggravated as it has been exacerbated by the sudden rise in the prices of basic foodstuffs and fuel. The outcome of the Moroccan government's implementation of a liberal policy, described as barbaric and subversive program of certain sectors, dictated by the imperialists, to the detriment of the most vulnerable categories. A situation exacerbated by the increase in the external debts and the unemployment rate, which keeps arousing popular discontent. It must be said that Morocco is on the verge of social collapse. Observers warn all socio-economic indicators are red, with a deep recession and a sharply rising unemployment rate faced with economic stagnation. Popular demonstrations are multiplying against the high cost of living and social injustice, particularly after the soaring prices of basic foodstuffs, with an increase of up to 100%. The king is accused of building a massive fortune of nearly $9 billion on the back of the people. The current demonstrations of factory workers and contract teachers reflect the discontent experienced by large segments of the Moroccan society. purchasing power of which is set to deteriorate further in the coming months. It's indisputable to stop the struggle for dignity. The people are determined to put an end to this chaotic situation generated by the 23rd year undivided reign of the king, a king who has turned his back on his people, attracting the interests of Westerners and Zionism, an entity to materialize its expansion plans.
The case of the Sahrawi activist Sultana Khaya is gaining ground as a group of tourists paid a visit to her arrest house, breaking the siege being imposed on her by the Makhzen regime. Leticia Sidqawi once again.
Physical assaults, abuse, rape in front of her 80-year-old mother, the injection of unknown substances, and more are all forms of violence by the Moroccan occupation forces in Western Sahara that Sultana Khaya, the Polisario activist, has suffered from. An American delegation representing many organizations managed to break through all the barriers put in place by the Moroccan occupation. Without the knowledge of the occupying forces, they broke the siege imposed on Sultana Khaya's family house, which lasted nearly 500 days by Moroccan forces, and entered the house. With the support of the Human Rights Action Center and a network of human rights groups, international volunteers for the protection of unarmed civilians, Ruth McDonough, Adrian Kane, and others are now guests at the Khaya's family house. This courageous movement from the U.S. delegation was praised by the executive office of the work team in order to follow the battle of Sultana Khaya and her family. In a press release on Wednesday, 16th of March, further calling on the international community and the United Nations to shoulder their responsibilities and put pressure on the Moroccan occupation to lift the siege on the house of Sultana Khaya's family and bring the perpetrators before justice.
And finally, a stopover in the southern province of Timimoun to take a breath in its bewitching oases and clay castles. So let's have a listen with Rania Al-Bahri and discover more mesmerizing beauties.
When you visit the desert around Timimoun, you can see Al-Qsor, the stone fortress made up of different materials such as sand, stone and local red clay. These castles were built by the Anath Berber tribes, who controlled the region in the Middle Ages. These qsors were built in strategic places on the roads of the Arab caravan. We are here in Qsar Ighzar, one of the oldest fortresses in Timimoun, built from Neolithic era. Many historians spoke about it, particularly Ibn Khaldun. El Fugara is symbol of this region and a symbol of sustainable development. This system was created for the water management. Here in Qsar Lemhel, the Fugara passes under the rocks and forms a source. Fugara is an ancient civilization that several travelers have mentioned it in their different books. Tourists who come here can meet the deep traditions of this region. Beautifully called red oases, Timimoun is known by rock houses. Huge caves were like refuge against the heat. We need to think how to boost tourism in this place, a unique tourism that respects the environment and which will have a relation with local population because the richness of the region lies in the local culture. The least that can be said is that the potential is enormous to make Timimoun a privileged tourist pole.
That was it for our news edition. Thank you for tuning in to our program. Good night.